So we're looking at problems in chapter 1.1, and these problems were presented in class, and so we will be looking at these problems in greater detail. So the first problem is looking at our first objective in this section, which is to solve one variable linear equations. So we're looking at problem number 25 on page 109, and we're solving for x. So in this particular problem, what we're going to do is use the distributive property, and I always use arrows. So on this side I have 10x minus 12 is equal to, and then on this side I'm first going to start out just clearing the parentheses. So in this case I'm just going to do the distributive property for 3, so it's going to be minus 3x plus 30 when I do this, and we have the bracket closing. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine like terms. So on the left hand side I'm going to go ahead and leave this alone, and on this side I'm going to work inside the bracket first. So I have 4 minus 2x plus 30, and now I will distribute the 4 . So here I have a minus 8x plus 120. And now we're going to go back and solve for x. So I will add an 8x to both sides. So I will have 18x minus 12 is equal to 120. And then I'll add 12 to both sides. I get 18x is equal to 132. And x now is equal to 132 over 18. If we take a 6 from both, we get 22 thirds, and we could also put that in decimal form. Our second objective is to solve one variable equations, and this time it's going to be a rational setup for our problem. So we're going to look at problem number 34 on page 109, and here's our problem. And the first step, of course, is to find the common denominator, and my common denominator here is 30. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to adjust each of my fractional terms and the whole number term to the common denominator 30 first. When I do that, I adjust the first one. I'm going to multiply both the top and the bottom by 10 for the first fraction. So I get 10 times t minus 2 all over 30. The second fraction, I'm going to multiply both the top and the bottom by 6. So I get 6t plus 7 all over 30. And then on the right side of the equation, I multiply this first fraction by 3 on both the top and the bottom. And then for 2, I have to have, it's going to be 60 over 30, right? Because when I divide 30 into 60, I get 2. So now I have 10 times t minus 2 minus 6 t plus 7. On this side, I have 30. On this side, I have 3t minus 4 plus 60. over 30. Now I multiply through by 30, and when I do that, guess what happens? Well, I just end up with t minus 2 minus 6t plus 7 is equal to 3t minus 4 plus 60. Now we use the distributive property, obviously, on all of these. So I'm going to get 10t minus 20 minus 6t minus 42 is equal to 3t minus 12 plus 60. And of course, when we combine like terms, we're going to get 16, no, we're going to get, hold on just a second, we're going to get 4t, right, because a minus 6t from 10 is 4t, and then I get a minus 62. And this is going to be on the other side, 3t, and I have 48, right? So I have plus 48. And then finally, now I want to combine the t's because I want to solve, so I take t from both sides, 3t from both sides. 62 is equal to 48. And now I isolate t because I want to solve it, and I get 110, right? So that's my solution. So here's my last problem of this section, and for this rational equation, I'm going to have to factor first. So to factor, I notice for this factor here, I'm going to have 5, and the factor is x minus 2, x plus 1. And then for this fraction, I'm going to have x minus 2, x plus 2. And then here I'm going to have 4 over x plus 1 times x plus 2. So those are the factors. And my common denominator here, I'll just put it up here, is x plus 1, x minus 2, and x plus 2. So now I need to adjust each one of my fractional terms to the common denominator, but I'm going to skip one of my terms. I know that if I multiply through by the common denominator, I'll just have the numerators of what is missing for that particular term. So for 5, I'm missing an x plus 2. So I have 5 times x plus 2. And what I'm missing for the second term is x plus 1. So I have 2 times x plus 1. And for the last term, I have 4 times x minus 2. And we know the fractions go away when we multiply through by the common denominator. So now I just use the distributive property. 5x plus 10 minus 2x minus 2 is equal to 4x minus 8. And now we combine like terms. I get 3x minus 8 is equal to 4x minus 8. Oh, wait a minute. It's plus 8, isn't it? And now I combine the x's and the 8's, and I get 16 is equal to x in this particular case. And so that concludes the problems that we had in class that we discussed for Chapter 1.1.